Hey guys, welcome inside the Guilty as Charged podcast. My name is Steven. As always, I am your host. Happy to be here. Happy to talk about the Chargers' upcoming matchup with the Las Vegas Raiders today. Joining me as always are my guys, Alex and Tyler. Alex, I know you wanted to pop off today about Derek Carr. So how are you doing? And pop it off, man.
I'm doing pretty good. This fucking guy has the nerve, hasn't ever won a fucking playoff game. May never win a playoff game, frankly, because he's a complete fraud. This Sid from Toy Story looking motherfucker gets upstage and starts talking about this. He looks like the worst employee at a rural Walmart. Like, that's what Derek Carr embodies, and I'm sick of him. If it was Patrick Mahomes can talk that shit. He's won a Super Bowl. I even respect Teddy Bridgewater enough, but the aesthetic of Derek Carr saying that, I hope Joey Bosa sacks him 10 fucking times.
I love it, man. I love it. Well freaking done. Well said. Tyler, how are you doing today, man?
Well, I'm the one who actually has to sit in that fan attendance where the Raiders are going to take over. So, unfortunately, it is very true. And so I'm going to go have fun with my dad. When the Chargers win, it'll be a lot of fun. There's nothing like being outnumbered by fans, but then watching all of them go completely silent by the end of the first quarter because the Chargers have that lead. So I can't wait for that moment. But the first hour or so, it's going to be a little rough.
Yeah, the first hour or so, like showing up at the freaking game, this is a game that I feel like people are going to be glad that it's on Monday, right? Because then you don't have to deal with like the, hours and hours of tailgating and stuff like that. I don't know. Maybe people still tailgate for hours and hours on end on a Monday night game, but I think it probably is a little bit less so. But yeah, it is like Derek Carr is a piece of shit for saying that, and like he hasn't earned that right. But at the same time, like he's not lying. Like
no, he's completely right. I just don't respect him enough to be right.
Yes, wrong person to deliver the message, but the message is sound. Unfortunately, if we can get. I don't think it's going to happen, but if we can get a similar turnout again that we had against the Cowboys and it's close to 50-50, then I'll be happy. If you have tickets to the game, fantastic. If you don't have tickets to the game, we have a way for you to do that. So if you check out our sponsor, TickPick, you can go and use our code and you can get a $10 discount on your first purchase. Using the code GUILTY. Again, that's TickPick. You get a $10 discount on your first purchase. That being said, let's dive right into this matchup. Actually, I lied. Let's dive first into the Chargers rookie class. I'm all over the place today. Work was crazy today. I'm doing fine. It's whatever.
Totally good.
ESPN did a rookie ranking the day after Amazon Prime or whatever did a rookie ranking, which was freaking hilarious. But ESPN rightfully has Rashawn Slater as the best rookie in the league right now. If you missed my offensive line breakdown, please go check that out because Rashawn Slater is clamping down defensive ends. And yes, the competition this week was not exactly great, but Rashawn Slater is playing out of his mind. And in my opinion, is very deserving of that number one ranking. You look at the way that he is playing and the position that he is playing, it merits that kind of topic. To me, he's far and away number one. You can have a different discussion for number two. I think they had Micah Parsons at number two. I think Jamar Chase has an argument there. I think Patrick Surtain has an argument there. I feel like I'm missing somebody else. But to me, Rashawn Slater is far and away the best rookie in the league right now. And it's just so amazing to watch. Like, we have waited years and years and years for a franchise left tackle, and they have one. And I have full confidence in him for the rest of the season. I have full confidence in him in this matchup. And it just is so amazing to watch. Again, if you missed my breakdown, please go check it out, because if you think I'm raving about him now, I rave about him for like 15 minutes in my breakdown. So please go watch.
Yeah, I'm going to actually start with the defensive guys, because I feel like Steven has gotten you covered with 2 hours of Rashawn Slater content in the last 3 weeks. So, Asante Samuel Jr. actually prior to today, after Sunday's game, jumped up from plus 3,400 to win Defensive Player of the Year to plus 1,200. I think he is the 5th or 6th best odds right now, around there with Surtain, Parsons, Jason Owe is up there. Dave Owe, sorry. And Jeremiah Wosu-Permoa. who is up there as well, who's been balling out for Cleveland. So it's just a really great defensive rookie class. Maybe I didn't kind of expect all of these guys that were sort of these bona fide first, second round picks to be popping off this early, but they definitely are. So yeah, I mean, credit to Asante Samuel Jr. for winning Rookie of the Month, which is, a huge boost to his chances to potentially win Defensive Rookie of the Year. Obviously, he won the Pepsi belt again, which is very fun in terms of beating Jamar Chase. So, the Bengals and Chargers fans got into it on Twitter, and that was fun. But yeah, no, I mean, and people were talking about like, hey, if Josh Palmer got a few more touches, like maybe he'd be in here, right? Like, so they really kind of drafted like 3 or 4 studs out of this class. It's looking like potentially more based on, the more that we see the other guys. Might be a member of that draft class coming on their show tomorrow. But other than that, it's been a, fun couple weeks with this rookie class for sure.
They've been outstanding. I was so happy to see Slater at number 1. I didn't. If you had asked me to guess who ESPN would put at number 1,
definitely not a tackle.
I wouldn't have guessed the offensive tackle for the Chargers. But I mean, whoever put that list together, props to you, because you, I think, made the right call. And again, there is some argument, like you said, Parsons or Chase for number 2. I can tell you that Mac Jones does not deserve to be on that list. With 2 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. I mean, you could put Trey McKitty on there. I think he's more deserving at this point than Mac Jones. Not really, but it's still really cool to see. And Asante Samuel Jr. making it. First of all, shout out to all the fans who voted. At some point, Jamar Chase was ahead, and Bengals fans were making that big push. And then a couple of you guys, some of you, I don't know if you're just nerdy or whatever, you just refresh, vote. And suddenly he was up by 7%, and he just rode that into the sunset. Yeah. And he ended up winning his 2nd belt in a row. At some point, he's going to have like a stretched body because of all the belts that go around his body. And he's just like, I don't know what to do. But good for you guys for voting for him. It's awesome to see him get the recognition, obviously on a fan level, but also on the national level. And, as much as, okay, I think personally, if you just look at the numbers, technically Samuel Jr. has not been better than, say, Newsome or Stokes, or at least probably Horn if he had kept playing. Maybe even debatable that Surtain has been better. But the name recognition, the defense he's playing with, the interceptions that he has, the games that the Chargers are winning, he's standing out right now. And so I think he has a legitimate shot at Defensive Rookie of the Year because of all the things that we thought he would be recognized for, but now also the plays coming in, and he has those splash plays. Really interesting bet. I'm really curious to see how this plays out moving forward. They do have some big games versus some big opponents, and that'll really cement Samuel Jr. and Slater as the best rookies in this class.
Yeah, to his argument for Defensive Rookie of the Year, like as long as he is producing and as long as the Chargers are winning, I think he definitely has that chance. Because like if you look at the Cleveland Browns, like people, like smart football fans talk about Greg Newsome, right? But they're not mentioning him with like the 4th or 5th or 6th best defensive player. They're talking about Myles Garrett, talking about Denzel Ward, talking about John Johnson. Like people are talking about Asante Samuel Jr. as like the 3rd or 4th best defensive player on the Chargers. And so I think he is getting, that kind of recognition. And I think it's been fun, like following other fans on Twitter, because everybody wishes that their team would have drafted Asante Samuel Jr. and all of them wish that they would have. Yeah, exactly. Brad Spielberger, who Arjun interviewed, put out the other day a tweet that said like people are still talking about the Lions and the Bengals and how the Penei Sewell and Jamar Chase thing, but it's like the Miami Dolphins traded out of the top 10 to get more picks, and then they traded back up and they took a receiver. Their offensive line is the worst in the league. Like it's awful. Like they could have used Rashawn Slater, and I think everybody in the top 10 could have used Rashawn Slater. So that's been fun just on social media, looking at fans of other teams be like, man, I wish we had Rashawn, I wish we had Asante. And they played awesome, man. And obviously we hope that they will continue it, and I have faith that they will.
Yeah.
All righty. Let's jump into this week 4 preview. Obviously a big game on Monday Night Football. Tyler's going to be there, so if you want to go say hi to him, go chat it up. Let's start with the biggest storylines that we are kind of focusing on this game. Storylines that could have a big impact in the result. Tyler, I'll let you start this one off. What's the biggest storyline that you're paying attention to this weekend?
Gotta go boring, but I have to continue with my storyline from last week of pulling away from first rounders and getting snaps in service of a better defense. We kind of thought that was possible last week, but Murray and Tranquil played pretty similar snap counts. And I'd imagine, with Tranquil looking just a level better and a little quicker right now, that his snaps go up. On the blitz that he had, Tranquil sort of maybe initially lost that rep to Joe Tooney, but he showed really tremendous strength. He's able to disengage when Mahomes drifted to the left, and he was able to pick up that half sack with Bosa. He needs to be playing more, and I understand wanting to get Murray reps so he can develop because the NFL is newer to him. But I just don't know if you can wait at the expense of sitting a mentally faster player right now. And with it seems like Jacobs is coming back, and Barber showed out last week. Drake is whatever. I guess they're not playing him because he sucks on third down. But they have a really good rotation, and I don't know if you can just sit there and go, well, okay, Murray, see if you can figure it out this game. I really think they have to find a way to get it Tranquil on the field. So that's a big storyline for me going into this game.
Yeah, they've got to find a way to make things easier for Murray somehow. And, everybody is saying that, like, oh, they need to put Murray on the edge. Like, they need to let him rush the passer more. And, like, that will free up reps for Tranquil and Kaiser White. And while I do want to see him blitz more often, I think we need to be careful with talking about Kenneth Murray on the edge, because to me, there's a big difference in can occasionally rush the passer and can physically hold up on the edge. Because right now, Murray's biggest problem to me is that he is not shedding blockers at all. And his feet get stuck in the mud. He waits to absorb the blocker as opposed to being aggressive. And if you do that on the edge, that's even worse. Like, you have to be able to physically impose your will and set the edge at the outside linebacker / defensive end spot. And I don't think he's able to do that. And sure, you could put him out there, give him, 5 to 10 pass rushing snaps a game. But then you're also taking away reps from Kyler Fackrell. You're taking reps away from Chris Rumpf, who I thought showed some good things last week. And so that, to me, is just not really something I'm interested in. Use him more as a blitzer, sure. But I'm not interested in looking at Kenneth Murray after 3 games and going, all right, let's experiment with him on the edge. Like, that's just that's not what I'm into this week or ever, really.
Yeah, thanks to Micah Parsons for having a good game against Storm Norton and then convincing everybody that can happen every week for every linebacker if you just put them on the edge. So that's a really great thing going forward for the league. My big storyline heading into this one is the shifting on the interior defensive line. Obviously, we heard Eric Banks was cut today. Just hadn't been playing well enough. Could not hold up against the run. Not really effective as a pass rusher either. And so, I think Staley took a chance on one of his guys from the Rams and just didn't pan out. But, on the good side, you do have Justin Jones coming back finally, which will help the run defense. And so I'm really curious to see how they play this Raiders team. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about Josh Jacobs later and what his status for this game is. But I think that whatever the Raiders put out there, they saw the tape, what the Chiefs did, what the Cowboys did against this run defense in particular, even what Washington did with Antonio Gibson. And, they're looking with, they're going to try to feast on it. And so I think this is a big week for the run defense, whichever combination it is. Maybe they'll bring up, Fehoko or Merrill. We'll see on that. But this is the kind of week where I feel like they need to have a pretty emphatic performance against the run to be able to beat this Raiders team.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting matchup to watch because, all the statistics point to the Raiders not having a very efficient rushing attack. I know Brandon Staley talked about today that he really respects the 3 runners. Alex talked about Kenyon Drake, who, for whatever reason, is like the most expensive backup running back in the world. So it is going to be interesting. I think the Raiders, if I remember correctly, I think they're like 28th in rushing DVOA right now. So theoretically, like, this could be a get right game for the Chargers run defense. But at the same time, like, if we see the same issues and if Kenneth Murray is, stuck in the mud again, then it's going to be another long day. And, this isn't Clyde Edwards-Helaire and the pass happy Chiefs. Like, the Raiders legitimately want to run the ball. Like, they're throwing the ball a ton right now. But John Gruden in his press conference yesterday was like, I want to run the ball more. Like, I need to establish the run. Like, I want to have balance. And, he is not as old school as he used to be, but he wants this team to be pretty close to like a 50-50 split. And so it can kind of go both ways. Like it could be a get right game for the Chargers run defense. It could also be a get right game for the Raiders running offense, which is going to be interesting to watch.
Hopefully, and I know people really want Tavon Campbell, and I'm sure he'll get brought up in a second. Tavon Campbell looked good last week, but I really think that if you have Chris Harris Jr. out there, that does help you out your run defense just a little bit more. Obviously, it won't help you get blown off the line of scrimmage, but I think it'll kind of help cap some of those bigger runs. So hopefully he's out there too.
Yeah, that's absolutely a good call. All right. So I think the biggest storyline for me that I'll be focusing on, I'm trying not to be, like boring, but to me, it's how
you see offensive line.
Yeah, it has to be.
I've had it.
Because the Raiders defensive line right now, like Max Crosby leads the league in pressures with 25. Granted, he had 13 against the Baltimore Ravens. So that's, essentially like a quarterback throwing like 400 yards in one game and like 250 in the next two. So it's a little skewed, right? And Yannick Ngakoue has, I think, 16. So he's in the top 10 in the league right now as well. They're the only duo in the league in the top 10 in pressures. Like everybody else in the top 10 is, one player from one team. Joey Bosa's in there, Myles Garrett's in there, et cetera, et cetera. And so I like I said earlier, I have full confidence in Rashawn Slater locking up one of those two pass rushers. It's probably going to be Ngakoue. Max Crosby, has kind of shifted sides to rush mostly from the right tackle spot. And so, it's just going to be a different kind of matchup because Storm Norton, like he's had the speed rushing Micah Parsons. He's had the bull rushing Chris Jones, who I thought he played really well against. And then this week, Crosby's kind of a little bit of both. Like he doesn't really have a whole lot of counters. He's not a pass rusher that has a big plan of attack. Like he's either going to win with effort or he's going to try and bull rush you. So it's an interesting spot for Storm Norton. And I think in general in this game, like to me, it almost comes down to like which right tackle sucks more than the other. And so Storm Norton to me, like if we get the Storm Norton from last week and from the first game, then I think the Chargers could cruise to a win. But if we get, even close to the Storm Norton from the second week, then the Chargers are probably going to be in a little bit more of a dogfight. So, again, I don't really think that Norton's week 2 performance is the normal. I don't think any of us really do. But if Crosby gets rolling and he gets, a few pressures, he gets a sack on Justin Herbert, then I think that puts the Chargers in more of a dogfight than we would like to see them be in.
Yeah, I feel like every game, as long as the kind of current 4 of the rest other than Norton stay healthy, that being Ibushi, Lindsley, Slater, and Filer, if those guys stay healthy, then pretty much every offensive line, defensive line matchup kind of comes down to can Storm Norton hold up, right? Like,
Right.
I don't think he was necessarily great last week, but, he held under 5 pressures.
He was
right?
fine.
Yeah, he was fine, right? And that's really what you need from Storm Norton more than anything. If he's fine and you can help him out a little bit, then, I think that the Chargers can definitely win this game and contain both Crosby and Ngakoue potentially. But Crosby, with how he is playing right now, definitely does scare me. Just going into this game and in a primetime game, last time he was on Monday Night Football, he was pretty good. I think there are probably going to be more Raiders fans in the building, unfortunately. And so that's something that, a sack here or there or, really big hit, turnover can really turn things, I think, ugly potentially in this game. So I think Norton is kind of the biggest obstacle on the offensive line. Now, like if we get the Norton we saw from last week, I think that's great. If we get the Norton we saw against Dallas, then, I would almost go as far as to predict a Chargers loss. But again, I think that is to say that, allowing 9 pressures was so out of the ordinary for him, even compared to what his, averages have been for his career. So I definitely think the offensive line, as much as I dread talking about it, is definitely a key to this game.
Well, I'm going to make us talk about it a little bit more. So, Steven, out of curiosity, did Norton do something just better this week that he wasn't doing the week prior? Did the Chargers just help him out a certain way? What made him go from 9 pressures allowed to 2? I think
it was 2. Yeah. So the Chargers did help him more. I think they learned their lesson. Gabe Neighbors had a couple really nice chip blocks, and one of them he actually leaked right out, caught a pass for a first down. So they did that a little bit more. They max protected, I think, like 4 or 5 times, which was more than they did against Dallas. So they definitely learned their lesson in that they have to help him a little bit more. But Norton, like, he still handled his business. And there was one particular like max protect situation where Trey Pipkins actually lined up next to him. And essentially it was like double team, like go get Chris Jones. And Norton actually took an aggressive jump set, and Pipkins never touched him because Norton he was on him. And so Norton played well, like Alex said. I'm not saying that he was like a world-beating tackle. Like he was fine. And that's what you need out of him. So it was a little bit of he was better. The matchup was more friendly, as crazy as that is to say when you're talking about Chris Jones. And the Chargers did help him. So it was a bit of everything. But I think that kind of lends a little more confidence this week. You know, if you're getting 3 or 4 chips from Gabe Neighbors, you're getting 3 or 4 max protect situations, getting 3 or 4 bootlegs. Like, I think all of that helps Storm Norton gain some confidence against a pass rusher like Max Crosby, which is still so weird to talk about him in this fashion.
I would imagine it also helps that you're playing a defense that isn't going to blitz. So generally, like, the running back knows who he's going to help block. You know, the tight end's going to help block one guy. You just set protections one way. That's kind of it, right? Does that make things pretty easy for Norton?
Yeah,
the whole offensive line, really.
Like, that's the thing that people, you know, don't really want to talk about. Like, there was no film on Micah Parsons. There was, you know, very limited film, or there was no film on Micah Parsons as a pass rusher. And the Dallas Cowboys, like, to me, you know, I studied the Tampa Bay game a little bit, but to me, they completely changed their style of defense because they lost Randy Gregory for a game. They lost to Marcus Lawrence for potentially the season. And so they did more stunts. They did more blitzing. And when you're an offensive lineman who doesn't really have a plan and you're outmatched athletically, which is basically the case every single week, like, it's a disaster out there. And it just snowballed for Norton. So this week, he had a better plan. He had a better matchup. And this week against the Raiders, I think, you know, I think the plan will be relatively the same as it was this week in terms of what they're going to do to help him. But ultimately, Norton still has to, you know, he still's got to hold his own because they're not going to be able to chip and max protect on every play. Like, it's going to be 12 to 15 times in this game where Norton's going to have help. And, you know, there's going to be 50 plays in this game where he's going to be on an island with Max Crosby.
Sounds good. Alex, any offensive line you want to
please move on?
One day we'll get you to like talking about the offensive line, Alex.
Never. Jamar Chase was the right pick. He won Rookie of the Month.
Yeah, we'll see. All right, let's talk about this injury updates. Of course, you know, we could start with the offensive lineman, but I want to start with Chris Harris Jr. He has returned to practice in a limited fashion. There was a report initially by James Palmer of NFL Network that he was expecting to see Chris Harris back the following week against the Cleveland Browns, but it looks like he is trending back too. So Tyler, you kind of already mentioned this, but Alex, what are you expecting from Chris Harris / his backups if Harris is able to play in this game or is not able to play in this game?
Yeah, I feel like it's he's either kind of going to be full go or he's going to be no go. I don't really feel like his shoulder injury is kind of a work him back type of thing, but if they do feel like it is, then based on what I saw last week, I feel very comfortable playing Tevon Campbell, more snaps than he usually gets with Chris Harris there. And I feel, just kind of more comfortable with this secondary as a whole, plus getting Harris back for, whatever they think they can use him for coming off of that shoulder injury. So I think that having him back is a huge advantage, just in terms of how this, has been going. And, like you said, I think he is a very short tackler, and that's something that is very important to have in the run defense, and something that the Chargers have lacked, as much as we talk about the defensive line and linebackers and their responsibility in it. And the other name is obviously Justin Jones, who's practicing again. And so I'm excited to see him back. Hope he makes it through a full game, and doesn't get another cramp situation, because I think the Chargers really do need him for a full 4 quarters, and that's kind of going to be what I want to see in this game, right? Because we really saw that growth as a pass rusher in week 1, and then just kind of were robbed of it ever since. So if you combine that with his run game, I really feel like that's kind of the piece that the Chargers are missing on the defensive line right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Chris Harris Jr. I think makes the defense a better tackling defense and a smarter defense, but it does not make them a more athletic defense if you're taking out Tavon Campbell. And I'm very curious to see how they will manage a Darren Waller, a Henry Ruggs. And they're not the same like duo, but it's kind of like Hill and Kelsey. And last year, Michael Davis covered Darren Waller for 47 snaps, gave up 7 catches, 125 yards, and a touchdown, 6 first downs, which sounds like a lot. That's over 2 games, and one was on a pretty long touchdown grab. So in general, he played pretty well against him. But so I'm really curious to see how they mix and match, because me personally, Chris Harris Jr. has commented on me critiquing him before, so maybe I'm wrong about him. But watching him in camp, he's just a little bit slower, not quite, a premier athlete. Campbell's the guy that can run that 4-3. He's the only other guy, the only other D corner on the team who's like Michael Davis. So I don't know. I kind of rather Campbell be out there if you're trying to mix and match between Ruggs and Waller, but at the same time, I kind of want Harris Jr., who makes the whole defense smarter, I think, and also is a better tackler. So it'll be interesting to see how they mix those two guys, especially with Harris Jr. coming back from injury.
Yeah, I think you definitely want to mix them, in my opinion, because I think the athleticism that Tavon Campbell brings, and suddenly the playmaking ability, right? Like he, in a very short amount of time, he's caused a lot of turnovers for this team. Obviously, he had the pick 6 against Flacco, the 2 forced fumbles potentially last week. I still think Nasir Adderley gets one of them, but that's a different conversation, I guess. So I think you kind of mix and match them, right? And the other aspect here is that Chris Harris has been taking snaps at safety up until at least in the first game too. So that kind of takes Alohi Gilman off the field, who surprisingly has been playing very, very well. So it is going to be interesting to see what happens when Harris is back, because to me, you're taking out better athletes as for more experience and for a higher football IQ. But I think this is a game that you can kind of get away with that, because the decision to start Tavon Campbell was primarily from an athletic standpoint, because Tyreek Hill plays in the slot so much, so does Mecole Hardman. And then this game you have Hunter Renfrow. So Hunter Renfrow is one of the better slot receivers in the league, but he wins with route running. He wins with being smart. He doesn't really, he's not an athlete. Like, I think that's a fair thing to say. So I think this is a game where you relative to skill, of course, right? Like, he's not.
He's what I thought Nick Niemann was going to look like.
He's a gritty, hard-nosed kind of guy.
Blue collar.
Yes. There we go. Yeah. Thank you. So I think this is a game where you want to see Chris Harris playing well. And, one of the things that I'd be interested to is to see him get involved in the blitzing side of things as well. So I think I lean more towards Justin Jones playing in this game than Chris Harris.
I agree.
Just based off of what James Palmer said. But I think Justin Jones is obviously a very important piece this week. So the other thing to talk about really from Brandon Staley's press conference today is that apparently Brian Bulaga had a minor back surgery or procedure or whatever happened. I don't really know. Like, it seemed like Brandon Staley was like caught off guard that there was a follow-up question there. Maybe he was not supposed to kind of let that information leak. I wish that we could have got a real clarification, because was this like a pain shot? Was this like he had a hernia? Like, where are we at with this surgery and how severe is it? But at this point, me personally, I'm looking at Brian Bulaga like we're not going to see him back on the field until I see otherwise. Like, I'm not expecting him back anytime soon. I think that's how everybody should think about it. Maybe that's just me, but I'm not expecting Brian Bulaga to be out there until I see it happen.
Yeah, when it first got announced that he got put on IR, I sort of immediately got like Mike Pouncey vibes from it, where it's like, he'll be back, and then he's not back. That's just how it really felt the whole way. And then you got a back procedure in the mix. Obviously a little bit similar to Mike Pouncey's hip procedure that he had. So I don't know, like, I think we're just at the point in the season where if Brian Bulaga comes back, great. I don't think we can expect it though. And to be totally honest, I think Brian Bulaga has put on a Chargers jersey for the last time.
That's so dramatic. I think he'll be okay. It's a very interesting situation, these last couple of injuries. I feel like fans last year were very, very frustrated with Anthony Lynn and Trey Turner, where it's like, oh, he has a foot injury, and then Turner was out for like 8 games. It's like everyone's freaking out about Anthony Lynn and like, you're so dumb. You don't know what's going on with your team, or you're lying. No one's really done that with Staley yet, but I'm waiting. Maybe if they were starting to lose.
Some people are starting to do that already.
Are they? Okay. Yeah. Well, then maybe I blocked them. Sorry. But yes, you could tell like Staley was, I was going to comment this and just tweet it out before I even heard about the Bulaga thing. I swear he was the happiest I've ever seen him to start that press conference. He was joyful. He was just smiling and everything was good. As soon as someone brought up Brian Bulaga, his whole demeanor changed. He was like looking down, like he wasn't even looking out at everybody anymore. He was just kind of sour faced. And then clearly, yes, it did seem like he got caught off guard, or that he spilled something that he shouldn't, because it was like he had a procedure, and the person was like, he had surgery, and he's like, yeah, he had a thing done.
Like, I know, it was like there's so much variance here. Like,
yeah,
is this a 1 Brandon Staley, or is this a 10? Like, how worried should we be for Brian Bulaga's health right now?
Right. No, it was so confusing. So like today is the day that I got the Mike Pouncey vibes, where it's like, what are we expecting here? So I think he'll come back unless something got way, way, way worse. But I think he'll come back. I don't think it's like a last time sort of thing. And frankly, get him out there. Like, Storm Norton ain't that great, so get him on out there for a few reps. But yeah, not looking good.
Yeah, I don't know. It's the fact that it's the back injury and now he's had a back surgery. Like, if it was okay, he has a concussion, he has a groin injury, like, whatever, like he'll come back from that. But having a back procedure, and I mean, Steven can speak to this better than I can on some level, like just as an offensive lineman, like I can't imagine that that's helpful. Like, it's probably like the worst procedure you can get as an offensive lineman, just because of like how you have to hold up leverage and how important your back is to like your whole game, like in trying to hold leverage against an opposing defensive lineman. So like, at least from that aspect, that is kind of what I struggle with. Obviously, also the fact that Brian Bulaga is a little bit older, so that's sort of the vibes I get from it. But obviously, anything can change. Maybe Brian Bulaga is back next week, and we talk about it like it's nothing. But as of now, I have very little confidence he plays again this season.
Yeah, and a lot of that too depends on where the Chargers are at too, right? Because if they're in the playoff hunt and Brian Bulaga is healthy, then like, sign him up. But if the Chargers are out of the playoffs and he's ready in November, then there's no point. Like, you continue to evaluate Storm Norton. Hopefully he's able to stay healthy, and you see what you can have there. As it pertains to the injury, to me, if you're a tackle, the first worst injury you could have is on the inside ankle, like, because that's the one where you're really driving off of the ball with your inside foot. So for a right tackle, it would be your left foot, left tackle, a right foot. The second worst injury is a back, man. Like, because just for a normal human being, like, back injuries are so painful. And when you're a 300-pound man, 315, I think Brian Bulaga is, like, it's just so painful. You can't bend over. You can't, straighten your back. You can't, explode off the ball. Like, it's a bad spot to be in. And he had a back injury last year. Now he has a back injury this year, and now back surgery, potentially not major that serious, but still, like, procedure is a procedure. So it's a tough situation for him to be in and for the Chargers to be in. Staley did also comment today that it seems like the plan now, if Storm Norton does go down, is to kick Matt Filer to right tackle and put Michael Schofield at left guard. So he made a point to emphasize that that's not a slight on Brendan Hymus. They just prefer to have that veteran presence that Schofield brings to left guard. I think that's in part because they have a rookie left tackle and they don't really want to have 2 rookies on one side. But that was, kind of a shift from what we have heard previously, because they didn't really want to move Filer because they wanted him next to Slater. At least that was my impression when asked about it a couple of weeks ago. But now it seems like the plan is to move Filer. That is the next chess piece to move if Storm Norton goes down.
I also think that we sort of have to talk about the Balaga thing. We talked about sort of developing Norton, right? Like if the season does go bad, you sort of have to see what you have in him. Like Brian Balaga knows more than likely that he's being cut next year. So I think going into another free agency at 33 years old, there's potentially an incentive for him to, if the back injury is serious enough, sit the rest of the year and then kind of go from there in terms of, the longevity of his football career. So I think that's kind of part of it too.
Are you surprised even that, Pipkins is basically right tackle number 4 on this depth chart?
I mean, kind of, because I would have assumed that Tom Telesco would have tried to butt in there and be like, hey, this is a legacy pick for me. Let's play this guy. It really, I mean, not that much, but he's somebody who really stuck his neck out for Pipkins. And so, I mean, he's not been great. It's been fun, I guess, to see him be used as that extra offensive lineman and get him some reps. They're not really super useful reps most of the time. Like I said, it's a lot of max protect and run blocking. So it's fun, I guess. I would almost rather see Scott Quessenberry out there because I know that he'll do a job, or even Brendan Hymas or Michael Schofield. But, not really. A lot of people kind of speculated that Michael Schofield would be the right tackle. But now we have our answer. If anything happens to Norton, or I would assume Rashawn Slater, God forbid, knock on wood, Filer is the chess piece. Filer is the one who's going to be moving to a tackle spot if one of them gets hurt.
I think I can judge how well Rashawn Slater is doing just by the sheer terror in my heart that I just felt. You mentioned that something could potentially happen to him. So that's when you know you have a really good rookie, because God, I felt awful thinking of that.
I know. And I you hate saying those things, but knock on wood profusely right now. All right. Any other key injuries, guys? I think everybody else is relatively healthy. I know some people were concerned about Justin Herbert's hand after it got hit by a helmet, I think is what Brandon Staley said. But he appears to be fine. Brandon Staley said that God has blessed him with big hands, which was kind of funny.
You know where he's going.
Yeah. Goodness. But it seems like everybody else is healthy for the moment, which is good because you want to see people at their best in this kind of game.
How did Joey Bosa go from grabbing his ankle in the first quarter to I'm fine?
Yeah,
I don't know what happened. All of a sudden he's like, yeah, it got better this week. I have no idea how.
Yeah, that's an odd one because he got rolled up on early in the first quarter too. And I was like, oh no, he's going to be out. And then he stayed in the game and had one of the best games of his career.
as one does.
These NFL players, man, they're just different.
Oh, I like he likes that adrenaline. I mean, can't blame him.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to these key matchups and X factors. I think to me, one of the things that I am looking forward to in terms of key matchups this week, it has to be Keenan Allen against Casey Hayward. We get to see the two old friends, best buds, go at it. I know there have been some people talk about Casey Hayward like the Chargers should have kept him. I think with the way Asante Samuel Jr. has been playing, we should not be having that conversation. But Casey Hayward, it looks very pretty on paper right now. He's only allowed 3 catches. He's made some really good tackles in space, but he's also not really been tested at all. The Pittsburgh Steelers, Miami Dolphins, and Baltimore Ravens are 3 of the worst passing offenses in the league. So we're going to see if this Casey Hayward resurgence is legit on Monday or if it's not. I expect him to make, an impact play or so just because of, like Alex was saying, the adrenaline. He's playing his old team. He's playing his old friends. We saw Chris Harris have a great game against the Broncos last year. There's just some extra juice there for Casey Hayward. But ultimately, I expect Keenan Allen to also show out. I expect Mike Williams to show out against him too. So I guess, on a larger level, this is Chargers receivers against Raiders cornerbacks. But on a very small level, I'm just really, really excited to see Keenan Allen go up against Casey Hayward again and reignite, those old training camp videos. Who's
the other guy next to Casey Hayward? Is it Mullen?
Yeah, so Trayvon Mullen is the outside corner, and then Nate Hobbs, the rookie, is their slot corner. Nate Hobbs is also doing pretty well, at least according to Pro Football Focus.
Well, good luck with, covering Mike Williams. I recorded a breakdown with the wrong microphone on, but by gosh, that guy looks really good, and he's going to destroy whoever the second corner is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for me, to take the opposite side of that, I'm going to say Chargers secondary against Raiders weapons, right? We sort of already brought it up with Darren Waller and Henry Ruggs, kind of being a similar thing to Kelsey and Tyreek Hill. So I'll be kind of very curious to see who they put on who and when, right? Because I do think Michael Davis will probably have some snaps on both. And I think you'll see Derwin James kind of all over the field, but also on Darren Waller like he was on some one-on-ones with Travis Kelce last week. And I'm curious to see how the Chargers play it, right? Because against the Chiefs, they sort of pretty much just sat everybody back and were like, hey, we're just going to defend the deep ball, right? We'll let them have the intermediate if they get the intermediate in this play, but it's better to have a 9-yard Travis Kelce pass than a 19-yard Tyreek Hill pass, right? And I think that that's really how they sort of played it. But the Raiders are different than the Chiefs, right? In terms of their passing offense, right? Obviously, sort of their running backs and just their whole team as a whole is not as clean of a passing team as the Chiefs are, and don't have one of the greatest offensive minds who's ever lived to coach their offense. So I think that that's something too. But I think that that's what this game really comes down to, is how much they can limit Darren Waller, how much they can limit Henry Ruggs, and sort of some of the supplementary guys that we talked about, like Hunter Renfrow. So I think this is a big Michael Davis, Derwin James, Asante Samuel Jr. game. I'd like to see Tavon Campbell out there if possible, especially for some of the faster guys on this Raiders team. Brian Edwards also had like a fantastic end to the game on week 1 for people who watched Monday Night Football that week. So I think he's sort of the under the radar guy, if he can still be that at this point. So to me, I think that this Raiders team is not as deep as the Chiefs by any means, but it's also not a wide receiver, running back, tight end kind of group that is to be overlooked.
Yeah, certainly not at all. And while I don't think of this Raiders receiving core as all of that great, obviously Darren Waller's a game breaker, but Gruden can get these guys open. And I'm really interested to see how they play that sort of I spy with Henry Ruggs and communicate as he moves around. Even though Waller is kind of like the hammer of the offense and he's going to be the one that breaks the defense, Ruggs can also be a game breaker. We've seen him, because the Jets are stupid, but they broke, he broke up in that game against the Jets. I believe he scored the game-winning touchdown, or at least kind of a game-sealing touchdown against the Steelers this year. Last week, the Raiders motioned Ruggs, I believe, behind the line of scrimmage, and he ran a wheeler route in like the second quarter, and they couldn't connect. But later in the game, they went right back to it in that same look. I think in overtime, and it was huge for them. As Stephen pointed out, Derek Carr leads the league in explosive passing plays, and Ruggs is part of that. So try to put a roof on it. Then you see like Hunter Renfrow has this quadruple move thing in the red zone now. I guess like all the white slot receivers are coming up with new shit to do because Cooper Kupp apparently has new moves. Renfrow's got this new thing. Yeah. Raiders love that whip concept, so I'd love to see them just kind of buckle down and handle business there. My key matchup is going to be Joey Bosa versus Alex Leatherwood, and I think this is potentially the worst matchup for Alex Leatherwood, a guy who's already struggling right now with 4 penalties. 3 sacks allowed, 5 hits, 13 pressures. Does not look really good. Now, personally, the weaknesses for Leatherwood to me in college were effort and reacting to counters. And Joey Bosa is going to destroy him on both fronts. And I'm going to talk about my X factor in a little bit, with maybe not a whole lot of help on the other side. This is a really, really key matchup because he has to get to Carr to help win this game, which is duh. Joey Bosa has to get to the quarterback. But I really think like this matchup is really important. And hopefully, it's not like not a get right game, but sort of a get right game for Leatherwood. I hope it's not like a steal situation where, suddenly the Dallas Cowboys have this guy that they've never really even played before, and he plays amazing versus Bosa. Hopefully it's not like that. Bosa needs to have a good game and continue that performance that he had last week.
Yeah, to Alex's point about the receivers, I interviewed Raiders insider Vinny Bonsignor, which if you're watching this, that is a audio only episode, so please go check that out. But one of the things that Vinny talked about is that the Raiders game plan has appeared to be like in the first half, you take all the Renfrow and Waller targets, intermediate, short range, and then in the fourth quarter, you like start opening up with Ruggs and Edwards. So one of the things that he was pointing out is that it could be interesting is if to watch if that continues, or if that's something that they decide to potentially do the opposite, where you go to Ruggs and Edwards deep early, and then that kind of opens things up for Renfrow and Ruggs, which is kind of, you know, the more common philosophy in terms of like going deep early and then, you know, going to your key playmakers intermediate range later, which is just interesting. And you know, Joey Bosa, like it's been a little up and down, right? Like I think you're going against Sam Cosmi, who's a rookie, albeit playing well, apparently. You know, Terrence Steele and Lucas Niang, like Bosa has played really fantastic. He's put up some really good production. And then in week 2, like the Cowboys really, like they went, you know, they made it their business to make sure that Joey Bosa was not going to beat them. And, you know, whether that was quick passing game or, you know, chipping, double teaming, you know, running at him as opposed to away from him, which I think is a good way for teams to neutralize players. Like the one thing I know about Alex Leatherwood is that he's going to, you know, at least try to block his ass off in the run game. Like he is a good run blocker.
Mm-hmm.
So potentially that's, you know, something to keep an eye on if they do have Josh Jacobs, if they're running him at Joey Bosa as opposed to away from him. But Bosa does need to play well in this game. I agree, because Derek Carr against pressure, right? Like most quarterbacks are worse under pressure, but Derek Carr specifically is much worse under pressure. He's got 2 interceptions on the year. Both of them came when he was under pressure. So this is a big game for Bosa and a big game for the rest of the defensive pass rushers as well. All right, Tyler. Wait, yeah, Tyler. Let's hear your X factor of the day.
Perfect. So I wanted to get right into this then. My X factor is going to be Uchenna Nwosu, because granted he has played fewer snaps than Ingram has, but Ingram has 12 pressures while Nwosu in fact will have 9 total. And I don't think Nwosu's played poorly by any means, but it's time for him to earn that second contract. I feel like, you know, when you watch Ingram against the Raiders, I think Ingram had 15 or 16 pressures and 2 sacks the last 3 times he played the Raiders. They need someone to go terrorize Miller on the other side. You know, Nwosu won't have to really, you know, play contain on any quarterback scrambles this week because Carr does not run. So, you know, in those opportunities to rush the passer, pin your ears back and go. And they need somebody else opposite Bosa to get some pressure here, because Miller is fine. I don't know how well he's playing right now. I'm sure he's playing just fine. But Ingram was always the guy that terrorized him. And now Nwosu or Fackrell have to step up. So they're my X factors for this game.
Yeah, so just really quick before Alex jumps in with his, Colton Miller has allowed 8 pressures and only 1 hit. So quite a different contrast between Miller and Alex Leatherwood right now.
Yeah, I'm going to say my X factor is going to be Josh Jacobs. Steven brought him up a little bit, and whether or not he plays in this game, particularly I think where he's most dangerous is the red zone, because he gives the Raiders that true option. You sort of look at the week 1 game against Baltimore, 10 carries for 34 yards does not look very impressive, but keep in mind, like he was basically doing that on 1 foot pretty much the entire game. Like every time they panned to the sidelines, they were like trying to figure out how to get him out to play. And he still had 2 red zone touchdowns in that game. Right. So like he is still a threat, I think, and makes the Raiders that more dangerous in the red zone than they otherwise are. Right. Because you know, not to really soil the name of Kenyon Drake or Peyton Barber, they're both fine. I like them, but, you know, they're not guys that are, you know, going to scare you in the red zone, as opposed to like, hey, we'll make the decision to double cover Waller on this play, or we'll make the decision to double cover somebody else, or, you know, just basically, cover the roof and all that. Right. So I think that whether Josh Jacobs plays is pretty huge in terms of the red zone defense this game for the Chargers, because I can definitely see him giving them problems. And if the Raiders do have a bit of a better blocking game, I feel like we could kind of be in for the Josh Jacobs game against the Raiders, which is, you know, pretty much not, I mean, they did play him outside of the opponent's 25, but they really gave him that extra responsibility inside there and kind of let Kenyon Drake take the stress off of him the rest of the game. So that is something that does concern me and is an X factor in terms of their red zone preparation.
I think that's absolutely the right call because, you want to have a well-rounded offense. And right now the Raiders don't really run the ball effectively. So having Jacobs and having a healthy Jacobs is going to give them, that many more options, like you were saying, specifically in the red zone. So I was debating for my X factor between two players. They're two players that I've kind of talked about a lot. So I'm still kind of trying to figure out who I want to talk about. Briefly, I'll say Jalen Guyton is an X factor this week in that because we all know how Gus Bradley likes to have linebackers against slot receivers. So, I said at week 1 that potentially, or, week 2 against the cover 3, that this could be a Jalen Guyton game. I think, I don't want to say that again, but we might see Jalen Guyton matched up against Denzel Perryman or Corey Littleton. And I'm just saying, this could be a Jalen Guyton week. Instead, though, I'm going to focus in on Nasir Adderley because similar like logic of thinking as Alex picking Josh Jacobs, Nasir Adderley is getting a ton of action as a tackler. If Josh Jacobs is playing, like he's going to have to do what he did against Clyde Edwards-Helaire, step up in the run game, and he had that awesome hit against Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I think that he happened to force that second fumble. It did look like on camera that it was Campbell. I happen to think it was Nasir Adderley based off of what I saw on film. And so Adderley's going to have a ton of action this week against Josh Jacobs, Darren Waller, Hunter Renfrow. And last year in this game was a game where we saw, some missed tackles leading to big plays, missed tackles leading to some touchdowns. And, we saw him kind of struggle against Philip Lindsay in space against the Broncos. So we need to continue to see this ascent from Nasir Adderley that we are. I told Tyler and Alex earlier this week that I felt like this past game was Adderley's best game as a pro. So I think this potential breakout that we've all been waiting for from Nasir Adderley is happening, but it needs to continue to happen. Like he can't go back to week 1, Nasir Adderley, who missed a tackle against Antonio Gibson, who, had a poor coverage against Logan Thomas. So if we continue to see good Nasir Adderley, then the Chargers should be in a good spot this game because Lord knows he's going to have an active night against Darren Waller and Josh Jacobs potentially.
I'm so happy to hear that he's having a good game. I think some people were kind of worried after that first game, but if he's bouncing back and he looks really good, I'm really happy. I didn't realize how many tackles he had. I think it was either 8 solo and 10 total, or either that way 8 solo or 8 total, whatever. But it was surprising to see that he had that many, and just him coming downhill, saving plays. Like I think his average depth of tackle is like 12 yards, but the fact that he's saving those plays from being something bigger when the floodgates open and it's him versus the running back, and he's the guy who saves the play from being a huge gain. Big stuff from him. Really, really proud of him so far.
So really quickly, he actually leads this team in tackles with 20, which I did not really know. I mean, it makes sense considering how awful the run defense is. But he has 15 solo tackles right now, which he's making these tackles in space. Like they're difficult tackles, and he's doing a great job with them. So we need to keep seeing that happen, especially this week.
Yeah, I'm proud of Nasir Adderley, the only good Philadelphia safety left.
Who are the other Philadelphia safeties?
Oh, no, I was just talking about the Eagles because they're all fucking injured.
Oh, gotcha. Oh, yeah, that was a rough day on Monday. All right. Any other X factors or key matchups that you guys are focusing in on this weekend?
Pretty much it.
That's about it for me.
All right. Let's get to these bolt predictions. Then we'll have our league picks and final score predictions as well. Alex, I'll let you kick this segment off. What is your bolt prediction for this week?
I think my bolt prediction for this week, I'm going to say Keenan Allen ends the Casey Hayward, ascension this year pretty definitively. I'm going to say 2 touchdowns, 12 receptions, 130 yards.
Whew. I love that. That is bold. I really like that. And that definitely would end some Casey Hayward resurgence talk, man. Well done. I think for my bold prediction this game, I'm Let's see. I'm going to say we get a Drew Tranquil forced turnover and a Drew Tranquil sack. So like full sack, like not a half sack that he shares with somebody else.
And no Lance Armstrongs.
Yeah, no Lance. Gosh.
Boom, broke the podcast. I'm out.
Oh my gosh, my face is so red.
Oh yeah, chaos.
Well done, man. Well done. Yeah, Drew Tranquil, a big game coming. That's my bold prediction.
Okay, nice. Well, it sounds like Keenan Allen's gonna be killing Casey Hayward. So my bold prediction is actually going to be the other stuff. I think the Chargers are going to have 3 50+ yard pass plays, 1 to Williams, 1 to Guyton, and 1 with Eckler on a 50+ yard screen.
There we go. I like it. Big games all around. I think this Raiders secondary is in a very bad spot this week. But we'll see.
I said week 2, and here we are.
True. Very true. At least you're not predicting a 20-point win this time.
Not yet. You didn't ask me yet.
Okay. All right. All right. Let's get to some league picks right now. I'm in a bad spot with the league picks. Thankfully, it is my turn to go first this week. So let's get started. I think my 2 outright wins that I'm going to go with this weekend, I'm going to take the New Orleans Saints over the New York Giants. I've picked the Saints last week. Don't care about picking them this week. I think the Giants are in a terrible spot. Already talking about firing the entire coaching staff and the GM up in New York. So that's lovely. And then my second pick is going to be the Los Angeles Rams over the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals have never beaten the Rams under Cliff Kingsbury's tenure. And I think this is just kind of a coaching clinic from Sean McVay. And then upset of the week, I'm going to take the Carolina Panthers over the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, that's a good one.
I think the Cowboys have had 2 very emotional games, 2 very high charged games. And the Panthers are undefeated, but I still think that emotionally that would be kind of a letdown game. And I do think the Carolina Panthers have a very solid defense. They have a defensive line that can really get after Dak Prescott with Derek Brown, Brian Burns, and the guy Hassan Reddick. So I think this is a good spot for the Carolina Panthers, even without Christian McCaffrey. So they are my upset pick of the week. Let's go. Who was...
I was last week.
You were last week.
Yeah, okay. It should be Tyler. Tyler should go second.
Yeah. All right, Tyler, go ahead.
Fantastic. Well, I'll take the Bills over the Texans in a really close one for sure.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about them.
Yeah, and then I'm going to take the Chiefs over the Eagles because I picked the Eagles last time, and that really freaking didn't work. So I hope the Chiefs absolutely destroy the Eagles because they deserve it after just blowing it against the Cowboys. And then for my upset pick, I'm going to take the Lions over the Bears. I think the Bears are a weird mess right now. It is very possible Fields gets it figured out. I believe there's rumblings about play calling changes, but I do believe the Lions, they were so close. They almost beat the Ravens. It took a 66-yard field goal doink for the Ravens to win, and I believe there's something about a delay of game penalty that wasn't called. So I'm going to take the Lions over the Bears because sure.
I mean, they have been more competitive than I think anyone would have thought. So
yes,
the Bears are awful right now. All right, Alex, go ahead, man.
Yeah, I actually haven't looked at the lines for any of these games, so correct me if I'm wrong on something. But I don't think I'm wrong on this one. The Packers are probably heavily favored over the Steelers. I'm going to take them. Big Ben's got a big old noodle arm right now, so I feel pretty comfortable taking the Packers. I think the next game I'm going to take. Tough one this week. I assume the Browns are favored over the Vikings.
Yeah, by 2.
All right. I will take the Browns over the Vikings. Just don't think the Vikings have looked very good defensively and feel like the Browns can kind of give them a lot of problems. And let me know the line for that Washington-Atlanta game.
The Washington football team is favored by 1.5.
Fuck. That was going to be my upset. All right. Well,
you want some ideas?
Okay. What's the Colts Dolphins line?
Miami is favored by 1.5.
I can't believe I'm going to do this, but give me Carson Wentz and the Colts.
Nice.
Just really quickly, Quentin Nelson is not playing, so have fun with that.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, but Jacoby Brissett isn't playing either, and he throws 3-yard balls to the point where Jalen Waddle
is Tua back?
No, he's on IR.
Oh, okay.
You said Brissett. But
you said Brissett was not playing.
No. I said Brissett's playing. I don't know what I said. I don't know. But Brissett's playing, yeah.
The point is you're sticking with the Colts.
Yeah, I'm sticking with the Colts. I was really depressed when I went to the Rookie of the Year voting and I saw Jalen Waddle have 12 receptions for 58 yards.
It's so disgusting.
Gross, man. So that's a disgusting offense.
Gross.
Yeah.
As much as I would like the Colts to get the number 1 pick and play Wentz 70% of the snaps, that would be awesome. I think they get a win this week.
Yeah.
So, okay, I got to ask you guys then. No one took Bucks Patriots in either way, either the Bucks to win or the Patriots to upset. How do you guys feel about that game?
That game fucking sucks and is stupid, all right? Brady and Belichick both don't fucking care about any of this shit, and they've constantly said that. And the media is just like, oh, this is Brady and Belichick. Like, I saw something on Twitter where Brady was like, yeah, I didn't watch Mac Jones. And people tried to, like, turn that into a thing. I'm like, yeah, he probably didn't watch Mac Jones because he doesn't fucking care.
He doesn't have time.
If I was Tom Brady, I wouldn't watch Mac Jones either. Like, it's just like people are trying to turn it into such grade A material. It's like, no, they both don't care and they don't like each other. I don't know.
Yeah, but who do you think's gonna win, Alex?
Tampa. New England sucks.
I don't think New England's very good. So I don't know. Like when I look at these picks, like I definitely take into the point considerations, and I probably should start taking things like the Buccaneers over the Patriots and the whoever's playing the Texans. But I don't know. That's just kind of boring to me. But it is what it is. It could be like a sneaky line game. Like I feel like the Patriots could make it a game, but I do expect the Buccaneers to win. Like they're so much better at every single position, except for maybe like left tackle.
Sweet.
Yeah, off the top of my head.
Oh yeah, but I really want the Patriots to win, man. That's so much more juicy for the media and for the hot takes and everything. Like that's way more fun on Monday morning.
Oh God,
fuck Boston.
Well, then there's that.
That too. But can you imagine people's reaction, like Colin Cowherd talking about like a Mac Jones outplaying Tom Brady game?
Man.
No, I don't want to watch ever Colin Cowherd and ever think about him. So I hope whatever the opposite of what he wants to happen happens.
Fair enough. All right, let's get to our Chargers and Raiders predictions. I'm gonna kick this one. Actually, I kicked the last one off. Alex, you kick us off. What are you predicting for the score on Monday Night Football?
I think the Chargers win this one. I think it'll be relatively close within a score, but I will take the Chargers by the same margin they beat the Chiefs by. I will take 30-24. I think that just kind of feels right for this game. I can definitely see this being like a last-second field goal kind of a game. That wouldn't shock me either way. Definitely think it'll be close down the wire. I just don't know what to really think of the Raiders right now. I think they're good offensively, but like Steven said, it's hard to take their secondary particularly seriously because they played the Ravens, who kind of passing-wise look like a mess right now. They played the Steelers, who passing-wise look like a mess right now. And, we just talked about Miami. So I feel like this is the first game where they're really going to be tested. And as much as Gus Bradley would like a revenge game, can't believe we didn't really bring him up much today. But I do think that this is the kind of game where he doesn't really have anything to bring to the table because the Chargers have almost completely changed up their offense. So, it's not really a game where he can kind of, really make a difference in that way, at least. So I feel pretty confident in taking the Chargers 30-24. Obviously, there are sort of things outside of the game, like the, fan attendance and, maybe that swings things, right? We obviously remember the infamous kind of StubHub game where Phillip Rivers couldn't hear his helmet, which is pretty bad. But I think all things considered, even with fan noise, we saw this Chargers team go into Vegas, last year, obviously, and, beat the Raiders. So I think they could do it again here. I'm not terribly concerned about this game, especially after watching their effort against the Chiefs, because they did make so many mistakes against the Chiefs and still found a way to win. So if they're even slightly cleaner, I feel like they beat this Raiders team 30-24.
I like it. I'm very very close to your score. I think there's something to be said about Brandon Staley years and years ago, over a decade ago. I believe during the Super Bowl run for the Saints, he sat in the quarterback rooms with the Saints and learned and helped study their entire offense. That offense stems very closely from John Gruden to Peyton to Lombardi and whatever. I think Staley understands in general, maybe not these quadruple routes that Renfro is running, but I do believe he understands this defense, or excuse me, this offense quite a bit. Even though Gruden has been a pretty solid play caller so far this year, I think he really has a good feel for this offense. And I think the Chargers also have Joe Lombardi and this offense, this sort of Saints sort of style passing offense that did very well against Gus Bradley just as recently as last year with Jared Cook. So I think they have a really good coaching advantage in this game. That's kind of a given as is, but I do think like they have a good coaching advantage and they understand the limitations of the opposing offense and the opposing defense. So as long as special teams holds up, and that is a big question mark right now, I do think the Chargers handle this pretty soundly. So I'm going to say Chargers 30, Raiders 23.
All right. So we're all going to be in similar point differentials. I agree with Alex that I don't really think Gus Bradley makes much of a difference in this game. I know that there were some people who were like, oh, what if he mixes it up? He's Gus fucking Bradley. He has never changed for anybody, and he will never change for anybody. So he's had plenty of opportunities to mix things up and add more blitzes. He doesn't care. He doesn't blitz. So, Arjun's stat about Justin Herbert versus cover 3 is amazing. He essentially is 20 for 21, for like 160 yards and a touchdown with like an insane EPA rate. So I think that matters. I think the Chargers really have positive matchups across the board that we've talked about, like Mike Williams against corner number 2, Keenan Allen against Casey Hayward. You can talk about Austin Eckler and Jalen Guyton against the linebackers, Jared Cook against the linebackers who are not very good in pass coverage. So I just think the Chargers have the better talent at essentially every single position, except for like, I don't know, like nose tackle, I guess, like defensive tackle. We can talk about Solomon Thomas versus Jerry Tillery if you want. So I just think the Chargers have a significant coaching advantage. I think they have a significant talent advantage. But it is like, this is a rivalry game. Like, this is a divisional game. Every game that the Raiders play is close. Every game that the Chargers play is close. There's been a bunch of trash talk on both sides. The Chargers are going to win by 2 touchdowns. Raiders are going to win by 2 touchdowns. It's going to be within a touchdown. Like, I would guarantee that is the outcome. So I'm taking Chargers as well. Last week we all picked the Chiefs. This week we're all picking the Chargers. I'm going to go 28-23. Like I said, I just feel like they have enough advantages across the board. But it is going to be a close game.
I've actually been wrong every single week because I picked Washington week 1, and then I picked the Chargers, and then I picked the Chiefs. And so I don't know. Maybe I finally got a win here.
Or maybe you should change your pick right now.
Yeah. Maybe we should start including the Chargers picks in our bet, because then I feel like I'd be doing better.
No. Yeah, we should. We actually should, because I would have a lead. That's a really good idea, Steven. That's a great idea. Steven. I think we should add that right now. I think we should.
No, I'm just kidding. We shouldn't. It's just league picks. We said that at the start, so that's how we'll keep it. All right, guys. Any final thoughts before we head out of today's episode?
Please, if you are listening and you haven't bought tickets, please show up, man, because it's going to be me and a bunch of Raiders fans. Like, can you guys show up? Like, everyone's, oh, there's no fans, and we have more fans, and we can vote for all this stuff. Like, just show up, man. Like, don't have a cup of coffee once a week for the year. Go buy some tickets. I don't care if you sit in the nosebleeds. Go make some noise. Help me out a little bit. I don't know how many fans are going to be there. It sounds like there won't be many on my side in my section. So if you're there, say hi. but please be there. If you're not there, please try to get there.
Yeah. I don't know. I think that I really hate this Raiders team and want to win this game. Just because of what Derek Carr looks like, because of what John Gruden sounds like. I hate this team with a burning passion more than anyone else in the AFC West. I'm fairly indifferent on the Chiefs and the Broncos, but please beat the Raiders. I cannot take one more John Gruden win and him having an undefeated record atop the AFC West after all the shit that I've talked, and I think he's a terrible coach. But please just beat him in this game.
Yeah, I agree though about the rivalry. Like I've never really had an issue with Chiefs fans or their team. Granted, a lot of that is because I really like Alex Smith and Andy Reid as people. So that has definitely helped. And then the Broncos, like, they've never really been that good outside of like the 2 years of Peyton Manning. Like they just like have never really been a threat to me, to the Chargers. So I agree. I don't like the Raiders very much at all. I remembered the other day that LT and the Chargers rattled off 13 consecutive wins against them in the 2000s. Like, please make that happen again. Like, please. Like, that'd be so much fun to watch. But this has been a great episode, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you, Alex and Tyler, for joining me as always, for the good work. Make sure and check out, we've got a bunch of videos and episodes, mini episodes for this week. I mentioned the Vinny Bonsignor interview. Arjun did a great analytical episode about Justin Herbert's performance in the clean pocket, which was a big topic of conversation in the summer. So go check that out. I have a film breakdown up. Tyler has a film breakdown up. So go check those out. And as always, bolt up.